Man, those Microsoft grassroots campaigns to kind of get people to dislike PlayStation they're really going all out with this stuff, huh? I mean, first it was, Game Pass is great and Xbox doesn't have, Xbox has all the games and PlayStation doesn't have any games, and now it's Ratchet and Clank is going to be 1080p and this P and that P. It's just, it's all kind of ridiculous nonsense, but it is worth talking about because the funny thing is how quick people are to the punch with something if it's perceived negative, and I honestly don't really understand why people are quick to do that, other than the fact that, one, it ticks off a fan base that like the PlayStation fan base, and two, it riles up the Xbox fan base because they want to quick to point out that if that were on Xbox it would be 4K. I mean, come on, let's just be real. They want everybody to believe that there's this huge gulf, this huge power difference between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Sadly, there's not. I mean, and at the end of the day, Microsoft hasn't had anything to really showcase what the Xbox Series X can do in the first place. So, third parties are going to be the worst place to kind of do for that because they're going to be very close to begin with. Now, this latest rumor, and I'm going to use that just as it is. This is going around saying that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is going to be 4K 30 frames per second with ray tracing, or 1080p 60 frames per second. Now, the main thing that I want to say about this is Insomniac Games, folks. There has been no official announcements to the 1080p portion. They're going to use obviously some kind of temporal injection, some kind of upscaling techniques and things like that. So I would think that this thing's probably going to be 1440p 60 frames per second, or pretty close to it. So a lot of people are worried about it. What we've seen though so far from this game is all the outlets are saying it's the best looking graphics they've ever seen. And if you go back to last September, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is going to run at 4K resolution with HDR, and the performance mode is going to be 60 frames. So that's the only official word we have so far. Interesting news about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Tidbits have surfaced online, including details about the game's resolution and frame rate. Sony updated the PS5 game pages, and with it comes some additional info on Insomniac's upcoming Ratchet and Clank title for the PlayStation 5. We already knew the game will offer a 60 frames per second option, and we now have some additional details about the rendering resolution. As listed in the updated game page, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is displayed in dynamic 4K with HDR instead of native 4K resolution. This implies that the game dynamically changes between resolutions depending on what's happening on screen in order to preserve visual quality and frame rate. Stunning visuals, enhanced lighting, and ray tracing make for a super sharp visual fidelity. The updated page now reads, displayed in crisp dynamic 4K and HDR. Behold dazzling in-game worlds as you work to save the universe. Enjoy performance mode to experience a targeted 60 frames per second frame rate as you encounter new enemies across multiple dimensions. They've also included some other features that are going to be in there as well, including fast loading, which is planet hop with abandon, near instant loading, adaptive triggers, feel unbridled dimension energy via the DualSense wireless controller, haptic feedback, sense the impact of in-game rumbles and explosions, and Tempest 3D audio tech, immerse your ears in 3D spatial environments. So they've got a lot of cool stuff that's kind of going on with this game, and people that are kind of jumping on, and I've seen some people try to point to some of these videos or whatever, and say, oh well, this it's only going to do this, it's only going to do that. On the official page there is nothing about 1080p or anything like that. It still mentions that they're targeting 60 frames per second with the performance mode. So there is absolutely no situation where we've seen them go, oh well, this game can only do this or this game can only do that. We do know that when it comes to Insomniac Games, these people are basically wizards. So we can look at something like the Miles Morales game on PS5, which is using machine learning. It's using all kinds of stuff, but it does multiple modes, including a 1440p 60 frames with ray tracing mode. So to think that they could, and that's an open world game, So to think that they couldn't do something like that with Ratchet and Clank, I think would be a little bit redundant and wouldn't give them really much kind of support. You know what I mean? I just think that what they're kind of hitting on is like a lot of people just want to look for the negative in this stuff. But I can also point to a particular instance where we have a developer said on Reset Era verified from Insomniac Games, where somebody asked, they wouldn't be able to tell us the 60 FPS res, and he says we have a long way to go optimization wise, so it's not going into specifics, but with our temporal injection it'll look great. So you can probably figure out it's going to be, probably close to 1440p or something like that, but nowhere ever on the internet that I've seen has said anything about 1080p or anything like that. And the people that are going around there saying this, I don't know why they're looking for it. Like, would that make it a bad game? Even if it was 1080p 60, would that make it a bad game all of a sudden? Like, that's the thing that I can't really kind of get next to or whatever. Like, everybody's trying to make something look worse than it actually is. And I get that the Xbox fans they do this because you know what I mean. I actually think that it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be talking about, and you want to be able to play great games. And if you're an Xbox fan, you don't really have anything great to play. I mean, there's literally nothing on the first party front, and then you have people kind of looking at something and going, oh well, look at these games coming out for the PlayStation 5. How can we, be salty and show how, jealous we are? And I think that the best way that we've seen so far is that people are actually out there saying, hey, I enjoy, crapping on what the competition is doing. And I think there's a time and place for that in all fun, right? But at the end of the day, I think that people are trying to make a little bit too much out of this, because they did the same thing with Returnal. And I tell you what, for their first AAA effort, I think that they did a really good job. And I don't think I think Insomniac is like 10 times the developers that Housemarque are. And, they're real pros, and I think that they do a great job. I can even remember with Spider-Man, nobody knew what really the resolution was. Just by looking at it, ended up being 1440p on the Pro, but looked like sometimes better than 4K according to Digital Foundry. So I think that there's a lot to be excited for. Anybody looking to kind of put down what Ratchet & Clank might end up doing, I think you're crazy. This game absolutely looks incredible. You're discounting all the particles and all the effects and stuff that are going into it, the instant loads into the opposite worlds and stuff like that. There's stuff never been done before that they're accomplishing, and people are kind of just looking to throw that in the crapper and just kind of ignore the fact that all the good things that are happening, or as if a resolution has anything to do with how good or bad a game is, right? Like, and the funny thing is as we get into next year and we're going to start seeing the DLSS compromise for both these consoles, the resolution is going to even be less of a thing. The only people that want resolution to matter right now are like the hardcore Xbox fanboys that suffered through the resolution gates of last generation. But the picture quality and everything is so much better now, like, and with the temporal injections and all that kind of stuff, that a lot of these tricks and stuff weren't available at the beginning of last generation. So it's a completely different ball game. It's apples to oranges, and anybody looking to kind of get payback on what happened to the Xbox last gen, you need to just wake up and worry about what Microsoft is doing. Like, get on them about getting some games out there, some optimizations going, because I think that's where a lot of this discord comes from, is them not having any games out there. And that's really a big problem. I know a lot of people get tired of hearing about it, but I would definitely 100% say, I think Ratchet & Clank is going to be a great game. This is probably going to be a high 80s, low 90s rated game, possibly in the running for Game of the Year. So yeah, I think definitely if you're interested in Ratchet & Clank, I think that it's going to be fantastic, just to kind of say the least. And gets me excited that we're getting like the frame rates. Like, so many people wanted the option for 60 frames instead of just like 30. And basically all of Sony's developers have delivered a 60 frames mode on all of their first party games, and yet people are still kind of bitching and kind of complaining about this and acting like it's the worst thing in the world. Do I know for a fact that it's going to be 1440p? No, but nobody thinks that it's going to be 1080p, because I've looked all over the internet and there's literally nothing from Insomniac Games or Sony saying that it's going to be 1080p. So, you know, you always got to kind of worry about like who's doing these videos and stuff like that. I would say just kind of relax. The game looks like it's going to be a blast. It looks like the best game we've ever seen graphically. I don't think anything like that is changing. Insomniac Games are absolutely at the top of their game right now, and I think that it's a very exciting time for all of us to be gamers. And for me personally, I think like this is one of my most anticipated titles of the entire year. So let me know what you guys think. I will link some of the information that I have here so you guys can check it out for yourself. Like I said, hold off on all the negative thoughts and comments because we just don't know yet. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. This has been Crapgamer Reviews. Crapgamer out.